And my name is Darrell Lawrence, and my company is Asia Music and Film Productions, Inc. here in New York City. I'm a music writer and producer. I'm a musician. I play a number of different instruments, mainly and for the most part in a big way, the drums. I have different artists that I've signed to our company for distribution by bigger distribution companies, and I'm also hired out on a regular basis to write and produce material for other artists. Well, there's no real school for producing, which is, I get asked that question a lot. You don't really go to school to produce. You understand how production works in some school programs, but actual production is a hands-on thing, and you acquire knowledge about all avenues of creating the music package. Producing is like putting it together, almost like a film. There's a director, and there are actors, and then there's the guy who brings all of the best together to make the package correct. As a producer, I decide what the best song is that highlights the artist the proper way. I decide which musicians get used. I decide which studio gets utilized, the sounds that we use, the proper engineers, the sound technicians, things like that. So as a producer, you have to be aware of all of that, as well as if you're a writer-producer, you have to be able to write and rewrite things so that it sounds and comes together correctly. As far as being a producer, I mean, a producer, you have to be able to communicate extremely well, because you're constantly being flooded, at least I am, and I can only speak from my experience, with ideas, and you have to be able to make those ideas gel with the people who you want to actually play the things that you have in your head. So if you're not constantly charting things out and writing, you have to be able to explain and have people understand you clearly, so that what you have in your head is what winds up on the tape, or in these days on the disc. So that's what you have to do, and if you have that and you start with that, a good knowledge and a good sense of music in general is what you need to start with. A lot of people think that it's, you know, book learning and it's schooling and it's very technical. Even though it is that, you have to have a real appreciation for, you know, music. I'm hired to do a project, and then I have to, like I said, go out and put things together. One of the things I wind up doing is we get artists to do background work, background vocals. Let's say a couple of the singers that we wound up dealing with now came via projects that I had to actually produce and orchestrate as far as the vocals are concerned. Somewhere along the line of working with those individuals, we feel as if this person could be someone who could have a project on his or her own, and so we approach them and we discuss what that would entail, and if they're with it, we start to develop a solo package for that person in particular. And that's probably, of the 7 artists that we work with, that's probably how I got, that's specifically how I got 5 of them to be able to deal with the industry at large through their own individual solo packages. For the most part, early on in my musical endeavors and the projects that we were dealing with, and in my career in music, that I saw how that was going with other people, the difficulties that they encountered, the things and the problems that they constantly ran into as far as personalities are concerned. And I think that because I was exposed to that early on, I figured out how to get around those things. I play to the individual, not the project, even though the project is the thing. I think I've learned to understand what goes on with specific musicians in their head, you know, as individuals. I mean, as a creative artist myself, I know how I would like to be dealt with and how I would like to be spoken to, how I would like to have things explained to me. And so I think that I think I'm pretty good at doing the same thing to other people in that way. So I don't run into those problems. Not that it can't happen. I mean, everybody has a bad day, and, you know, sometimes, you know, you run into certain things that, you know, you have to deem a problem. But as far as it being a personal thing, I mean, if everybody conducts themselves professionally, then, you don't have those type of problems. I'm sure some people do. I try to avoid it. It depends on the genre or the style of music that they're performing. If you're dealing with pop music, specifically, there's a certain demographic that you have to sell that to, which is more times than not very young crowd, more often than not young girls, and you can do a lot if the young audience can identify with a young woman, then you play to that, and that becomes marketable. If the young audience can identify with a male artist, for the most part, if they find him attractive in one way or another, for those things. So a lot of it has to do with the cosmetic aspect, and if you're in the ballpark as far as that's concerned, that makes it a lot more easy to market. On the other hand, if you're doing things that you think would appeal to an adult audience, you sit and you try to make sure that that person's demeanor is not offensive to the adult market. If they're sitting and they're behind a piano or they're on a stool with a guitar, if they look right and it sounds right, then it becomes a tool that you use in marketing them, And those are the things that become easy. There are other ways to deal with other individuals, so that it also can become marketable, but that's probably what most people use as a gauge to figure out who's marketable and who's not. If you know the business, then there's no problem. If you don't know the business, you can be in for a rude awakening. You learn a lot of things that you clearly had no idea about, and that'll destroy your day. That'll be like, I just want to make music and I just want to do this, and I didn't realize it was this tough and it's difficult to get this thing done, whatever that thing is. If you go into it understanding that it's all uphill, you don't have to like it every day, but you're expecting it. It's almost like being a boxer, getting in the ring. You know that the other person is getting ready to punch you, If you're a golfer and you get in the ring, you had no idea what you were stepping into. So it's different. We know that there's going to be some adversity regardless of what we do. So, I think that when you're prepared, that cuts down on the negativity. It doesn't make it go away. You can just deal with it better. It is abundantly clear that this business is designed to weed out the individuals who do not belong in it. If you don't have the stomach to do this type of thing, it's almost like everything that requires a high caliber of talent and perseverance and ultimate endurance. And if you can't see yourself doing it that way because nothing happens easy, nothing happens overnight, you should not do this. On the other hand, if you're as psychotic as I am and this is what you really have a passion for and you want to do it, absolutely. Let nothing stop you. Let nothing get in the way. No matter how many times you try to move and somebody's holding you from moving, there's a way to get out of that hole and you keep rolling forward.